I give the call to the Leader of the House.
Speaker, this is the 37th failed suspension from the opposition in the 43rd Parliament. And of those, 22 of them have been to suspend standing orders so as to allow a motion to be moved critical of the Prime Minister. Up until this week, 20 out of 20 of them had been moved by the Leader of the Opposition. 20 out of 20. But today, just like earlier this week, this is based on such a flimsy approach that he hasn't had the ticker to move it himself. He's had the manager of opposition business stand up and do it for him. And then they have the gall to say, where's the Prime Minister? Well, the Prime Minister has been in here this week, question after question about the economy, because that's what we're interested in this side of the House. But it's no wonder today that they again, couple of questions up the front to talk about the economy and then straight in the gutter, straight in the dirt, Mr Speaker, straight in the dirt. Because today their plan in terms of surplus is in shreds. Today, indeed, you have the Leader of the Opposition, the Shadow Finance Minister, the Shadow Treasurer, Senator Abetz, the Leader over in the Senate, all saying different things. Senator Abetz now calls surplus an extravagant promise. You have a Leader of the Opposition who's down to aspirations, They're happy to ask question after question. Well, I'll tell you what. I'd like an answer. Maybe someone will ask him whether this Leader of the Opposition's office has ever told anyone in the media the whereabouts of the Prime Minister. I would be very interested about the conduct of this Leader of the Opposition's office, because if it's good enough to go down these roads, then we'll go down these roads. Because this Prime Minister showed the standards that she had and she expected of her office when she took action against Mr Hodges. So I look forward to an answer about that. Just like we know they have the hide to come in here and ask about contact with regard to the investigation into the member for Dobell. We all know. Have they forgotten what they were doing at the end of last year? Ringing people in the police, ringing New South Wales ministers, interfering in investigations directly. The Shadow Attorney General ringing New South Wales officials in a completely inappropriate manner. And they have the hide. We'd be really interested about the contact they've had with Clive Palmer and Gina Reinhart about giving them a tax break. We'd be very interested in that, because we know that, the LNP sort of fly around in Mr Palmer's jet during election campaigns. We know in terms of the record amounts of donations that go in there. We'd be very interested in all of those questions, because they will do anything but debate the economy and jobs. Because at the beginning of this year, after last year, when he was parodied as the walking vuvuzela, the bloke who stands for nothing, just makes one noise, has turned the coalition of yesterday into the no-alition of today, I think we could have expected that there'd be some change in strategy when we came into the first week of the parliament this year. But we've had nothing but the same old muckraking over old issues. We've had nothing but the same old personal attacks against the government, and in particular the personal attacks against the Prime Minister. We've had nothing but the same old negative approach of all those opposite. And we've had, you get a few interjections. There's been a bit of an issue, Mr Speaker, you might have noticed, about American presidents. And certainly, I'm now aware of the movie. But I'm also been aware for a long period of time about American presidential campaigns. I've been an observer of them, and I note I note that it's not unusual, as you look at the Republican contest that's going on here, a fight between the extreme right, the very extreme right, and the completely off-the-planet right, then what you have, there's precedent for that. There's precedent for these Conservative campaigns. Barry Goldwater was an extreme right-wing candidate in 1964, and he went around and he appealed to fear. He appealed to fear, and he ran a campaign trying to divide the great nation that is the United States of America. And when he did that, he did it under the slogan trying to appeal to all the worst elements, never appeal to the betterment that mankind's capable of. And he said, in your heart, you know he's right. That was the slogan when appealing to that sort of prejudice, just like the current Leader of the Opposition tries to do, pressing every button that he can on every single issue. Well, the Democrats very successfully parodied the Goldwater campaign. And it's something that I think fits with this Leader of the Opposition, because their response was, in your guts, you know he's nuts. And that is exactly what this Leader of the Opposition shows himself to be in the way that he conducts himself in public life. He has indeed done for public discourse in this country what the Vuvuzela did for World Cup soccer in South Africa. He runs around, he says no to everything, he tries to divide the community, he tries to scare people. He has nothing positive to say whatsoever. You would have thought that they had 3 months. We finished in November, right through December, right through January, right through February, to come up with an alternative plan. Anything will do, anything at all. An alternative plan on the economy, on trade, on infrastructure, on health, on education. But what they have is the blank sheet. The blank sheet that we saw, the Fix the Bruce plan. That would apply to every one of their policies. Their Fix the Health System plan's the same, a blank page. Their Fix the Education System's the same, a blank page. Those opposite...
Leader ought not to depart too far from the substance
Indeed,
of the motion
Mr.
to
Speaker,
suspend standing
because
orders.
the reason why the suspension shouldn't be allowed is because we want to debate issues of substance. And what they're doing in moving this motion today is knocking off their own MPI again, because they're not interested in debating any real policy issues. And then he has the hide to say we don't want to talk about the economy. Well, I've got news for the Shadow Treasurer. The debate finishes at 4:30. When we go to adjournment. They're not aware of that. They're not too good on standing orders. Mr. Speaker. Old or new, any of them, they don't seem to get it, because they come in here and they just have one policy. Well, I'll say this, on this side of the House, we're the builders. We're the nation builders. They're the wreckers. We're the people who are interested in enhancing opportunity. Those opposite are only interested in entrenching privilege of the big end of town. That's who they represent. He runs around and says he's a friend of the workers, but he's trying to smash the auto industry. He's not prepared to support the steel industry. He's not prepared to support the changes to the economy that we need as we move to a carbon-constrained future that will ensure that we continue to be the envy of the industrialised world. Those opposite have a $70 billion black hole. Those opposite can't talk about anything positive because they don't have any money. They're at minus $70 billion before they start. And that's before you take into account all the other commitments that they've made. The fact is that it is only this side of the House that has a plan to govern. We're getting on with the job of governing. Those opposite just have hissy fits, complaints, negativism and no plan for jobs no plan for the economy, no plan for social policy, no plan for infrastructure, no plan for the nation. The Australian nation is better than that, and it's a lot better than those opposite, which is why we remain on this side of the chamber and why in the lead-up to 2013 we will still be on this side of the chamber.
The honourable leader's time
after
has
the next
expired
election.
and he will resume his seat.